Hello, I have another update, what I know this day for my family and my friends. And again, I'm just going to post it out there for the rest of the world in case anyone else finds it helpful. I have lots to say, but I've been requested to speak a little slower. So I am going to apologize to everybody that it's a long video because I have a lot of things to say. I should have done more of these. And I'm going to speak a little slower, so if you want to turn up the volume or the speed, go for it. So first of all, I want to just mention there are finally those finger prick tests that I was talking about in the last video have been approved by the FDA. There was some delay there with FDA approval, and I just want to let you guys know or warn you about some proprietary tests that have been made that are already out there that people can buy themselves, and they are junk tests. They have not been validated by the FDA, and they're giving false negative results and a false sense of security. If you can buy it on your own from the internet or from a company, I do not recommend them because they have not been validated. If you are going to use a finger prick test this is an antibody test to see if you've been already exposed to coronavirus and already won the fight. You already fought it off. We're definitely going to be doing that in our household. That you need to have access through your doctor. So if you can get it on your own, not a good test. I want to just warn everybody about that. Remember, there's skewed data due to the decreased testing. Everybody's reaffirming that. I want to say that because there are also some cases of people that are sick with it, they're testing negative, and they're rarer because their nasal passages are no longer positive. So their body is dealing with it now deeper in the lungs and in the GI system. So I'm really excited about these little finger prick tests. Those antibodies don't rise for a couple of weeks. So if you are actively sick with coronavirus, the antibody test will also be negative. So if you're actively sick, try and get a nasal test that will tell us if it's coronavirus or something else, common cold or whatever. But if you have already either not been sick or had something really mild or even something severe and you're wondering if it was coronavirus, wait a couple weeks, do the finger prick, and we'll see if you have the antibodies. Okay, so remember, you guys, there are 10 to the 41 amount of viruses and viral mutations in the world. That's like a billion, trillion, billion different viruses. So, we can handle this. Our body has handled this before. What's unique about this is it just hasn't seen a human body yet, so we're developing our immunity. But the transmission rate, data based from China, the World Health Organization China Joint Mission on COVID has released some data on transmission, and they're saying that the transmission rate is the highest in people that share the same household, and that's 3 to 10%. And in just like a store or the post office, that transmission rate is 1 to 5%. So the common cold is 10% adults, 30% kids, that transmission rate. So it does seem to be less transmissible than the common cold and more transmissible with your own family members. So props to Dr. Sarah and her post on this, The Mindful Doctor. She goes over all the data. So if you're an Instagrammer, go check her out. She's been great about just kind of keeping everybody educated. Okay, high risk of those who are vaping because of the oils that get into the lungs of vaping. So if you are vaping, you are putting yourself at risk. Please stop. And some data was just released on IV vitamin C. So I posted on this. Please, everybody, share with everybody that you know who is willing to share it. This is real data, and there's a hospital protocol that was written up by my mentor, Dr. Paul Anderson. That's on my Instagram and on my Facebook. Please, please, please share this data out. You never know who is going to be a decision maker and will be able to get this into hospitals. The data on China is just incredible. There were patients that were intubated and that were saying their final goodbyes to their patients, and they used vitamin C as a last resort, and those patients were able to be extubated and go home. Vitamin C, good old vitamin C. So please share that information. All right, I think I got through. Oh, and the loss of taste and smell, if that happens to you, definitely quarantine yourself because that is an early indicator. Guess what we know about in natural medicine is that is a symptom of zinc deficiency. So zinc deficiency makes this a harder infection for you to get through. So if you have a loss of taste and smell, yes, you likely have it because it's a unique thing to this virus, quarantine yourself, but also start on zinc. And zinc has been shown in some clinical sharing amongst doctors that it is helping to mitigate. So that's the game of supplementation. We're not going to prevent you from getting it. Everybody's going to get this bugger. Well, at least they estimate 85% will be getting coronavirus. The others maybe had it and just were asymptomatic. The game here is mitigation. Supplements have been shown to mitigate the condition. So just like physical distancing is trying to mitigate the spread, we are doing the same thing in the body, trying to mitigate the spread and the severity and the amount of cytokines that your body releases from this. So some things we have found about that supplements may get in the way and make things worse is selenium. So I have taken all of our family off of selenium. That just has to do with the ACE2 receptor. What else? Things that have improved it. Medicinal mushrooms. Another case study was a nursing home patient whose grandchild was a naturopathic doctor, put them on medicinal mushrooms, and that patient is still alive. So it's just a story. But if that's something that has seemed to work for you in the past to boost your immune system, then I'm just sharing that story. If you've been sick from mold, medicinal mushrooms can be really hard on your body, so that might not be great for any of my family that have been living in moldy places. In other words, I did not put myself and my boys on that, even though we had that data. Okay, so thyme. I just want to remind people that in the old days, we used to use Listerine as a gargle, and that is made with thymol. And Vicks has thyme in it, and Gaia Herbs makes a wonderful warming rub, and you can put that on the bottom of the feet and on the lungs, and that can help soothe congested lungs. Also, another resource is Dr. Aviva Ram. She has a Auntie Aviva's cough syrup that she makes. If you are home with your kids and you want to make this cough syrup to support yourself, of course, everyone in my family know that I have been steeping elderberry tincture for last month to help, but this is kind of a fun cough syrup, and it's a really easy one to go down because it's based in honey. So that's a resource to share. Now, I just mentioned elderberry. There's some bad information going around about elderberry. Avoid elderberry, it's going to cause a cytokine storm. We have not seen that to be true in any clinical situation, and many naturopathic doctors and master herbalists have been using elderberry. So it is also one of the rare aspects of elderberry is, remember in the last video I said that every amount of viri that you are exposed to, every single little virus that you're exposed to, your body has to take in. It doesn't have a door adapted yet to shut so that some of these viruses can be, just kind of coughed out or slimed out with mucus. Well, guess what? We just found out about elderberries. It's the only plant that we have found so far that can shut that door. So I do recommend taking it preventively if you have a pre-existing condition such as diabetes, heart disease, and any kind of lung disease or asthma. And if you don't have any of those, have it on hand in case you start to develop symptoms. Okay, so, and like I said, family, I have a bunch of tincture I just pressed out this morning. Okay, we also found out about quercetin. Quercetin is being shown to minimize or mitigate symptoms, especially in the lungs. And the dose that I typically am using with my family, just so you guys know, like with the boys, is 600 milligrams 2 to 3 times per day. If you cannot find quercetin now, because that data came out and everybody hoarded the quercetin. So food sources of quercetin. If you can't find supplementation, it works just as well getting it in food. And it goes back to the old way that French people used to eat. When you get a cold, eat French onion soup. So onions and the skin of onions are the best source of quercetin. If you are onion phobic or you don't handle onions well, you can also get this through grapes and apples and peppers. Any kind of bell pepper is a great source of quercetin. Trying to eat those at every meal. So this morning we did eggs and taters, and I put a bunch of peppers in there with onions. French onion soup is my favorite. Julia Child's is my favorite source. So there's some data also on propolis. That's a little sketchy because, not the data being sketchy, but propolis can also be contaminated with mycotoxins. But the cool thing is if you can find a clean source of propolis, and that's usually something local, somebody growing local honey is also selling the propolis from their growth. Propolis is being shown to really help mitigate, and doctors are using it in all kinds of ways, from nasal sprays to vaporizations to just supplementation. So I'm hoping that our Peru family can help us get a hold of some of the Propolio and be taking it as a tincture. But our family in Peru, especially the one with lung disease and lung problems and coughs, please start on the Propolio. Doses of propolis are kind of all over the place because docs are using it in so many different ways. So I would say just look at whatever the recommended usage is on the bottle of the particular product that you're able to find. And I'm sorry I don't have any propolis because I don't have any bees yet. Okay, sleep. So important. I talked about the melatonin last time, and I did misspeak, by the way. I meant 20 to 50 micrograms or milligrams. See, I'm doing it again. 20 to 50 milligrams of melatonin. And so the connection there is sleep is when we make our melatonin. So getting off screens. So for some, I say at least a half hour, but the data shows 2 hours before bedtime so that you can make good melatonin, wearing blue blocking sunglasses, all those kind of things. For me, I find that it works best for me if I get outside in the sunshine and I get that melanin through the sun interacting with my skin, which helps build melatonin at night. It's all connected. Sun in the daytime induces more melatonin at nighttime. So sleep has also been shown to be one of the kickers between the people that get fever and go on to having lung problems and the people that get fever and don't have lung problems. It's the people that went ahead and gave their body sleep when it asked for it. And there's a very good interview from one of my colleagues, Dr. Jolene Brighton, where she interviews a patient, and that's on her Instagram if you want to go find some resources. And did I mention bile? So again, bitters, and bile. Grizzly has something to say. And then last but not least is an observation about the mythologies of any time. I think it's interesting that the mythology of our time, which you can see through art and movies and stories, is, guess what was the highest grossing complex of movies is Marvel and superheroes. And it's this idea that there's somebody walking amongst us that has superpowers that is going to come save the day. Well, this is our chance to become our own superhero and save our own day. Everything I'm sharing with you are things you can do and you are in charge of. And becoming your most optimal self is the most powerful thing you can do, because there's no magic drug that's going to save this. There's no magic thing that's going to come take this away. The most important thing is that you engage your own inner superhero and conquer this. Okay, guys, that's it for today. I'll have more as I learn more. Bye.